Alright, we're going to do a top and bottom mod for this Vita 1000 to demonstrate how it's done. This is a little difficult to set up in this area, but hopefully you can see everything. First, we're going to take this Flex PCB. It comes in doubles because of minimum size requirements for flexible PCBs. So we're going to cut off one of these and use it here, and this is going to break out 5 volts, data plus, and data minus, so we can carry them anywhere. Alright, I'm just going to use some straight nail clippers to cut it. You can just use scissors. There we go. That's off. The board is preheated to about 140 degrees Celsius on this hot plate. I just clipped them apart. Now we're going to add some flux. The flux is going to help us locate it. So let's see. Add some tackiness and it'll hold down. All right, I got a pair of tweezers to help put this down. Let's grab it. To get it down, you just want to sort of match the pitch by looking through the Flex PCB. And line up these side holes. Let's say those 2 buildings here. Then how it's a monument? All right, it looks good. So I'm gonna try to tack down the left side. All right, we're gonna try to tack down one side. All right, that's one side. Now we're gonna try to get the right side. All right, it looks good. So now that the left and right side look good, and let me double check that it's all lined up. It looks lined up to me. I'm just gonna drag solder around these points right here. These are the only really points that matter. I didn't make a full set of solderable pads underneath this. So you just need to really tag this area. Now we're gonna add more flux and try to flow this all. All right, that's a crap ton of flux. All right. All right. No. This iron was too hot. I knocked a component off. This iron was too large and too hot. All right, I. Okay, well, let's heat and move it. I should have used a smaller iron. It happens so easily, but it's not unhappening so easily. I got to move this. It's in the way. All right. All right. Now I have to find out what orientation to put that. I'm gonna look at a reference image. All right. I looked and I see the way it's oriented. What the heck is? What the heck is? All right, we're gonna remove the PCB and then we're gonna use a heat gun to put that component back on. It's just a lot more difficult to do all this with the camera. All right. All right. The component should have flowed back in place. I will wait about 20 seconds or so, maybe more, and then I'll try to move it. And if it doesn't move, I'll know it's got tacked down. One thing you have to know about this is I noticed when I was taking apart that the motherboard is marked. That marking is A, and on the other side is a B side. So I've also marked the jigs. So this is an A on it, and this is an A on it. The top one is soldered on the A side, and the bottom one is soldered on the B side. All right, let's see if this component is loose or not. I can move the whole board by this component. It's back in place. Now we're gonna get a multimeter and we're gonna test to make sure that we didn't have a short between data plus, data positive, or 5 volts. So it starts out with 5 volts, data negative, and then this one is data positive. All right. All right. All right, that's ground. Data positive is not shorted to ground. Data negative is not shorted to ground. 5 volts is not shorted to ground. So now let's grab 5 volts. 5 volts is not shorted to data negative and is not shorted to data positive. And now data positive and data negative are not shorted to each other, so we're good. Data negative is good. Data positive is good. 5 volts is good. All right. So now you could just solder to these flexible PCB spots. I might make a new PCB with bigger spots, but these pads are a little bit easier to solder to than these pads. All right, now we're gonna solder down the top board. If you want to know I'm using my soldering iron at 320C, you have to get pretty hot to overcome the giant ground plane on the Vita 1000 board. So you definitely want to be running your iron at least 300C. All right, it looks like it's tagged on. Let's move this. Yeah, it's good. I'm just gonna add more flux and get these solder points less pointy. All right, very gently and not moving anything. I just want to melt this. There we go. There we go. Now we're gonna put the bottom one on. So let's flip this. Let's put this on first, like this. I feel like it'd be easier. Come on. Here we go. Flip it. Ouch, I gotta make sure the camera's still in place. There we go. So we're gonna solder these 4 points. Because we're preheating the board, these jigs get less stiff. So we're gonna do the top pads first and then the side pads. See the B for B. And then there's B's on here, B side. Also, I'll get the back part of the top board. I'll have to flatten that later, actually, so I shouldn't have put so much flux, so much solder in there. I have to flatten that. I'm gonna have to come back with some braid and make that lower. Because when you put the components back on top of it, there's a plastic piece that sits right there. There we go. Now it's back to flat. All right, I'm centering it. This hurts a little because it's 140 Celsius and I'm doing it barehanded. Can't manipulate the light and everything else at the same time. All right, so we're just gonna heat up this pad and then bring in the solder. Now we're gonna get these side parts. All right, I'm gonna actually do the same thing with the sides. All right, I'm gonna actually do the last one with this off. It's getting in the way. All right. All right, there we go. Now the next step would be, I don't have wire with me, so I'm not gonna do the next step now. There's gonna be even a third video. So you see these holes of the PCB? We're going to trace the wires that we wire up to here, through those holes onto the PCB below. And then we'll also trace these wires from here all the way over here to these 3 pads, which are 5 volts, data plus, data minus. Although I don't know if it's in that order, I'll have to check my reference board. Also, I have to repopulate the resistors. This was just a test fit to make sure everything works, all right?